Let's imagine a world where 90% of humanity has died due to a deadly virus that spread with unprecedented speed. It began as a small outbreak, but within weeks the virus proved unstoppable. Cities across the globe were overwhelmed, hospitals were inundated, and governments struggled to respond. In a matter of months, the virus decimated populations, leaving once bustling metropolises in haunting silence. Streets that were once filled with the sounds of cars and conversations are now deserted, with only the wind and the distant echoes of abandoned lives. The sudden loss of infrastructure and social order has created a world where survival is no longer guaranteed. The immediate aftermath would be chaotic and disorienting. Cities would become ghost towns with abandoned homes, schools, and workplaces standing as haunting reminders of the past. Roads and airports would be clogged with abandoned vehicles, and public transportation systems would come to a halt. Survivors would face a harsh new reality: the sudden loss of infrastructure and societal order. Essential services like electricity, water supply, and healthcare would become unreliable or non-existent. The grief and trauma would be overwhelming as people come to terms with their profound losses. In the early days, the few survivors would be focused on scavenging for food, water, and medical supplies. They might discover stockpiles of goods and resources in supermarkets, warehouses, and homes, but these reserves would not last forever. As the initial shock subsides, survivors would face the challenge of transitioning from scavenging to self-sufficiency. With supplies dwindling, the need to grow food, purify water, and generate energy would become paramount. Communities would begin to form around essential resources such as arable land and fresh water sources. Survivors might repurpose existing structures for agriculture, develop renewable energy sources, and use pre-existing technology to aid their survival. Traditional skills like farming, crafting, and basic engineering would see a resurgence as people adapt to their new circumstances. Knowledge from pre-pandemic times would be crucial for rebuilding and adapting to a drastically changed world. As the years pass, nature would begin to reclaim the urban landscapes left behind. With minimal human interference, plants and animals would invade cities, turning concrete jungles into lush, overgrown areas. Forests would encroach on formerly urban areas, and wildlife would flourish in spaces once dominated by human activity. Abandoned buildings would crumble and decay, becoming habitats for a variety of species. This environmental shift would have both positive and negative effects. On one hand, biodiversity could increase in these new ecosystems. On the other hand, the challenge of dealing with nature's reclaiming forces might pose additional survival difficulties for the remaining human populations. In this new world, small communities would form, each developing unique cultures and social structures. The survivors would create new ways of living, drawing from both old traditions and new innovations. Isolation and distance might lead to diverse cultural practices, with different groups emphasizing various aspects of pre-pandemic life, such as art, governance, or technology. Shared experiences of loss and survival would forge strong bonds within these communities. The emergence of new social norms, governance systems, and ways of life would reflect the adaptation to a world with vastly reduced resources and altered environmental conditions. Looking ahead, the future of humanity would be shaped by how well the survivors adapt to their new world. The balance between human activity and environmental preservation would be critical to long-term survival. The rebuilt societies would face ongoing challenges, from managing limited resources to addressing the psychological impact of their traumatic pasts. Innovations and adaptations would play a key role in ensuring that these new human civilizations can thrive. Ultimately, the survival of humanity would depend on resilience, creativity, and the ability to learn from both the past and the present. This is the story of a world reborn from the ashes of catastrophe, where humanity must learn to live in harmony with a resurgent nature and forge new paths in a drastically altered reality. What would you do in a world like this?
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and follow Forged Fiction for more intriguing alternate realities.